Hey everyone, welcome back. We're glad to have you here with us. If you're new, don't forget to like and subscribe. At exactly 6:15 a.m. on July 6th, the cargo ship Magic Sea was calmly sailing through the waters of the Red Sea. The ship, loaded with steel, was traveling from China to Turkey. It was flying the Liberian flag and was owned by a Greek company. No one on board expected any trouble until it happened. Out of nowhere, 8 armed speedboats showed up. They were carrying RPGs, machine guns, and one very clear intention to attack. Within minutes, gunfire erupted from all directions. The crew scrambled. Onboard security immediately returned fire. One of the RPGs hit the ship's deck, causing a fire to break out. And then, things escalated. 2 remote-controlled boats packed with explosives, like floating torpedoes, came rushing toward the ship, followed by 2 more. The Magic Sea caught fire, began flooding, and the captain gave the one command every sailor dreads abandoned ship. When the smoke cleared, the vessel was adrift, half sunk, with the crew floating nearby in lifeboats, waiting for rescue. Now, the Houthis had promised not to target American ships. But this one wasn't American. It was Greek. So by their logic, it was fair game. The Red Sea isn't just another stretch of water. It's a $1 trillion a year shipping lane connecting Asia to Europe via the Suez Canal. Every container ship, every oil tanker, every bulk carrier trying to save time and money sails through here. But now, this strategic shortcut has become a hunting ground. Just 51 nautical miles southwest of Hodeidah, Yemen, near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, is where the Magic Sea was hit. This is one of the narrowest and most critical choke points in global trade, and lately it's come under fire. This isn't random piracy. These aren't angry fishermen. This is a calculated and tactical disruption, and the signature matches a familiar player, the Houthi rebels. Their tactics involve using swarms of small boats, followed by explosive drone boats, also called USVs, or unmanned surface vessels. It's the same playbook they've used in over 100 attacks since October 2023. And here's the shocker. This was the first major attack on a commercial ship since January. After a relatively quiet period, especially following a ceasefire deal in May with the US, many assumed things were calming down. Clearly they weren't. So why now? Why this Greek-owned, Liberian-flagged ship? Because under the ceasefire terms, the Houthis agreed not to attack American vessels. But they never said anything about other nationalities. The Magic Sea wasn't just an unlucky target, it was a message. Loud, fiery, and deliberate. Right after 6:15 in the morning, the radar on Magic Sea picked up these fast-moving objects. They were just too small to be fishing boats, and honestly, way too fast to be harmless. 8 of them were speeding in from the west. These were fiberglass boats. Small, but, definitely dangerous. Each one carried 2 or 3 men, all armed with AK-47S, RPGs, and, well, a pretty clear plan. But Magic Sea wasn't defenseless. Like a lot of ships in the Red Sea, it had private security on board, usually ex-military contractors, and they were ready for trouble. As the boats came within about 400 meters, the guards opened fire with semi-automatic rifles and heavier weapons. But this wasn't just a quick hit and run. An RPG hit the upper deck, sparking a fire in the cargo and damaging the ventilation systems. Bullets sprayed the bridge windows. Smoke started pouring from midship, and the flames began to spread really fast. Then came the tactical breakdown. The speedboats? They were a distraction. Their job was to grab attention, force a reaction, and cause chaos. The real threat came just moments later, right at sea level. 3 unmanned explosive boats zoomed toward the port side. They were basically floating bombs. One got hit mid-approach and exploded in the water. The other 2 made contact. One slammed into the hull, right behind the engine room. The other hit near the stern, under the waterline. The result? Major structural damage, flooding, and a complete loss of propulsion. The Magic Sea was now disabled, burning, and slowly sinking. And it still wasn't over. Let's talk about these drone boats for a second. They don't look fancy. They don't exactly scream weapon, but they pack a seriously big punch. The Houthis have actually been perfecting this tech for years. Most of these USVs are just repurposed speedboats, loaded with high explosives, GPS, and some basic guidance cameras. You can kind of think of them as budget cruise missiles on water. In this case, after the initial boat swarm, the attackers launched the drone boats in quick succession. The first two were intercepted. The ship's security team saw their wakes, opened fire, probably with 50 caliber machine guns or similar deck-mounted weapons. One exploded mid-approach. The other went off early, either because it was shot or just misdirected. But the next two slipped right through. The first slammed into Magic Sea just below the engine cover. The explosion tore open the aft deck and sent shockwaves through the ship's interior. Moments later, the second one hit near the rudder assembly, knocking out the steering system and breaching a ballast tank. Seawater rushed in. Within minutes, the ship started listing pretty hard. Now, here's why these drone boats are such a serious threat. They're hard to detect, and honestly, even harder to stop. They skim low over the water, make very little noise, and don't need to return home. They're cheap too. They don't cost billions like the US Navy's drone fleet. All you really need is some explosives, a boat, and someone willing to operate it. In this attack, those unmanned surface vessels, USVs, caused far more damage than any RPG ever could. They weren't just a follow-up, they were the knockout blow. The Magic Sea was no longer a ship. It had become a floating oven, dead in the water, sucking up thousands of gallons of seawater every hour. Inside, one system after another just failed. Power was lost. Radios went silent. Smoke crept through the vents. The crew, mostly Filipino and Greek sailors, had trained for emergencies. But this wasn't a drill. After two explosions hit the back of the ship, the engine room flooded. The ship was tilting more and more. There was no steering, no power, and now no way to fight the fire. The captain gave the dreaded order abandon ship. But this attack wasn't about capturing prisoners. It was about sending a message. And that message echoed across the global shipping industry almost instantly. It raised a major question. If a fully loaded cargo ship with security on board can get hit this hard, who's next? The Houthi movement in Yemen, formerly known as Ansar Allah, has been fighting a regional war since 2014. Backed by Iran, driven by ideology and strategy, they've evolved from mountain rebels to maritime saboteurs. This attack followed the same playbook they've used over 100 times since October 2023. Swarms of small boats to breach defenses, small arms and RPGs to distract and damage, followed by remote-controlled explosive boats to finish the job. It's not just about how they attack, it's where. The Magic Sea was hit in a hotspot, an area frequently patrolled after previous Houthi strikes. They'd been watching that stretch of the Red Sea for months. Then there's timing. 2 months earlier, the Houthis had agreed to a ceasefire brokered by the United States. No more attacks on American ships. And for a while, it worked. The attacks stopped. Shipping patterns returned to normal, insurance rates dropped, naval patrols relaxed. But then came July. Fighting flared up again in Gaza after a new Israeli offensive. Iran's rhetoric turned aggressive. And in the background, Houthi leaders likely saw an opening. The West was distracted. By attacking a Greek-owned ship flying a non-Western flag, they didn't technically break the ceasefire with the United States. But strategically, they sent a powerful message. They were back. And this wasn't a random hit either. It was a signal to regional players. We're still here. We still have reach. And we haven't forgotten Gaza. And if nobody responds, expect more. Because when a ceasefire has loopholes, even silence can explode. One ship sinks in the Red Sea, and the waves hit Wall Street. This isn't drama. This is the global supply chain. The Red Sea handles over 12% of global trade, most of it flowing through the Suez Canal. When ships avoid that route, they have to detour around Africa, adding 6,000 nautical miles and up to 20 extra days to each trip. Multiply that by fuel costs, crew wages, and delays, and you're talking billions. After the Magic Sea attack, several shipping companies paused operations. Overnight insurance premiums for Red Sea routes skyrocketed. Some carriers immediately rerouted, even with higher costs, choosing safety over speed. And that's the real power of asymmetric threats. The Houthis don't need submarines or stealth jets. All they need is to make the Red Sea feel unsafe. One attack here, another there, and suddenly the entire global shipping network starts to break down. The US-led campaign called Operation Prosperity Guardian was designed to stop exactly this. But if non-American ships keep getting hit, that mission may have to expand. And that means one thing: escalation. The EU, China, and other major shipping nations might soon be forced to act, with warships, drone defenses, or diplomatic pressure. One thing is certain: global trade can't afford another Magic Sea. This wasn't just about hitting one ship, it was a direct challenge to the security of an entire trade route, a test of the international community's will. And now the world is watching. Was this a smart move or a huge miscalculation? On paper, the Houthis executed an almost perfect strike. No casualties, major damage, global headlines. And technically, they didn't even break the US ceasefire. But here's the risk. By targeting a high-profile cargo ship, they reopened the Red Sea as a combat zone. They reminded the world that maritime trade is fragile, and that fragility is bad for business. And business runs the world. Shipping firms, insurance companies, energy traders, they don't care who fired the shot. They care about one thing: risk. And every time risk goes up, so does the pressure on governments to act. That pressure could push the US and its allies to broaden naval protections, not just for their own ships. If China, the EU, or neutral states start labeling the Houthis as global disruptors, the entire balance could shift. Even Iran might have to rethink its support. This strike may have scored tactical points, but strategically, it risked turning quiet tolerance into coordinated backlash. In asymmetric warfare, winning the battle is easy. Surviving the consequences, that's the real test. So what started as a quiet morning off Yemen's coast ended in fire, chaos, and a global wake-up call for shipping. The Magic Sea didn't just burn, it ignited a much bigger issue: how vulnerable global trade really is when small actors use big tactics. And now the world is watching. Will there be retaliation, more attacks, or just silence, full of loaded threats? Here's the real question. If one rogue strike can disrupt a trillion-dollar trade route, should civilian cargo ships be armed by default? What do you think of this attack? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want to support our channel directly, join us. You'll get loyalty badges, priority replies, and help us highlight more real-world maritime stories. Click our channel page and become a member. We'll keep covering the Red Sea crisis, drone warfare, and global flashpoints, because next time it might not just be steel or fertilizer. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment to support X.